Perfect. Okay, before I start for this, talking about this topic, let's breathe. If you are okay, let's breathe and let's connect with our hearts. Just center ourselves, creating this vortex of guidance and orientation around ourselves, around our physical place where we are at this moment, and around our beloved beings and family. Just breathe in and breathe out. Perfect. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Good. So today we are going to talk about how to break contracts, agreements, or pacts. Have you ever do any type of this work, Diana? I don't remember if we did it before, but have you ever like
in the in the chakra course, I think.
Okay.
So it's something about this that we work, and on the sessions also that we have privately in the one-on-one session. So we did something
okay
like that. But I remember more from the chakra course that how to more or less.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So we are going to start maybe talking about what are the contracts, agreements, or pacts, and this is more like a definition of what we experience in our 3D world, like in our daily day, about these topics. And I'm sure you have contracts. You have a contract when you sign up for getting your cell, or when you got your house, or with the provider, electricity provider, or with anything, even with your husband, right? There is like a contract in certain way, or agreement that you did together. Maybe you sign up a document, or it was just an oral agreement. So as we see ourselves like in this life, in this 3D life, like surrounded by contracts, like we have so many contracts when we get a job, when like everything. If we want to sell something, for people that sell a product, for instance, they need to sign up a contract. When we download an application, we sign up a contract. So it's kind of embedded in our daily lives, even though we don't necessarily go into the details of what we are signing up. But whenever we do this in our 3D world, we are also doing in the spiritual world. So there is kind of a link that is being established whenever we accept or enter into agreement. Now, there are also other contracts that we do in an unconscious way, and we don't realize. So what we are going to, or the intention of today, of this circle of expansion, is to expand a little bit more our perspective, and also bring awareness in our words, in our daily behavior with other people, and how we exchange sometimes and we agree in certain things, and we tied with these other people, even our family, unconsciously. And then in the future, then it's something that, or we feel drained, or something impact us, or we feel like we owe something to someone. And the reason is because many times we agree something and maybe we didn't finish, or we didn't cut the contract, or there is still this feeling that the contract has not been completed. And we don't realize about those things many times. So if we go back to contracts, I want to bring like different, I would say, links, like who do we do these contracts with? first we do contracts with ourselves or agreements with ourselves. And I would say that those are kind of more, those agreements is kind of promises that we do with ourselves. Like, I don't know if maybe you have a case or something comes up to your mind, but sometimes, like when we are a child, we say like, I promise that I'm going to, or let's say, I promise that I'm going to be your friend forever. I promise that we are never going to separate to each other. I promise that I'm going to be, and I put it in the PDF, I promise that I'm going to be Guns N' Roses fan forever and ever, right? So sometimes we do many types of promises. And the ones that maybe remain, because there are promises that we don't do it from our heart. Like there is like, we say it, but we don't mean those things. But there are other times that we totally say those words with our fullness, with every part of our cells and our atoms in our body. And those are the ones, it's kind of, you are signing something in an energetic way. So first, we have those type of things that we do with ourselves. We just say it and we just promise for us to do something. Also, there are other times that if we have experiences that weren't satisfactory for us, or I was heartbroken with a relationship, and I say, I promise I'm never going to be in a relationship to suffer this much. So internally, sometimes we do promises that I prefer to be by myself instead of being in this type of relationship. So we kind of avoid, and we say why we are by ourselves, and it's because we just promise to be with us. And that's my dog. Yes, one sec. Okay, every time I have a neighbor outside, he starts barking. So, okay, so that's some of the contracts. Then we have contracts that we do with another people, right? Like when we do a promise to be together, to be in a business, to get married, to take care of one of another. It could be even with our parents or someone we care. So we do different type of contracts. Then we have contracts that we have in our past lives, or the contracts that we have, the soul contracts, like with our family. We have those type of contracts that we are going to be in the family, that I'm going to teach something to someone and the other person is going to teach you something. So there is always, mostly when there is a contract, there is an exchange of energy. So we have those type of contracts with our family, with our beings. We have contracts with our pets as well. Like they always come also to teach us something. So we have contracts with them. We have contracts with, in some cases, we can have contracts with entities, I would say, right? There are entities that maybe we do it unconsciously, we do it while we are sleeping, we are unaware, but sometimes we just do contracts with somebody, or we say, if I'm able to get this amount of money, even with them, I would say the goddesses and the beings that we believe, we say, if I promise I'm going to come here and pray for you every day if I get this amount of money, if I get this. So we do those type of contracts, unaware of what we are doing. And we are linking ourselves. We are creating this energetic thread with this other energy. Okay. So, so usually there is this type. I said also entities. Sometimes we always exchange energies with the entities, and we are unaware, but we could do promises, and then we promise to, we receive like the exchange of experience something that we want and we wish and we desire, and then we promise to give something from ourselves, maybe to experience certain type of energies. But I would say kind of I could be guilt, it could be apathy, it could be like hate. I can experience different type of energies or other things that I can give to these persons, this entity, this other energy. And then what else? There is like, what else can we can do promises even with places. Like sometimes we can promise to be in a house and to not leave this house ever and ever. And it's kind of, you are also acquiring a contract. So there are different ways that we can make contracts. The most important thing is that for us to be aware of what we are doing and what energy we are exchanging. And also where we are doing the contract from. Are we doing it from fear or ego, or we are doing from the heart? So depending of where we are doing these contracts, the energetic thread that we are creating with this another, I would say, entity, consider any being or location, then we are establishing kind of a thread, an exchange of energy in some sort of way. Even when we have partners, when we have our boyfriends, and we are also exchanging energies with them, and we have this exchange when we are having sex and we are exchanging a lot of energies. It's kind of also we are having kind of it's not a contract in this case, but it's a thread, energetic thread that is being created. Every time we meet someone, we have an energetic thread that is created. There is no contract because I'm not saying anything like I could say, or I can lie to the other person. But every time I am interacting with other people, there is always an energetic thread that we create. Now, these energetic threads, in this case, is different than the contracts, but I just want to have clarity that usually when we say or we create, like there is always an exchange of energy, and there is always kind of these energetic thread that we are creating around us, and that's kind of the exchange. The thing is, what happens is where we are doing this from. That's the most important thing, and it's very easy. Or we are doing from fear or ego, or we are doing it from the heart. So going back to the contracts, agreements, and pacts. Sometimes we also have, and we call it kind of hidden vows or hidden pacts. So sometimes we are not aware because it's something we did maybe, and it's related usually with a past life. Maybe we had a life, I don't know, in a secretive environment, or we belonged to a sect, or we belonged to somewhere. So sometimes there is this type of vows that is difficult to come up to our awareness because they were hidden and they were done in these specific moments or with certain type of energies to protect those, so nothing can break those ones. There are pacts that we do with blood, and it used to be like, I don't know if, I think there's maybe some practices that they are happening at this moment, but in the old days, it was more common to do pacts with blood, and those are very strong contracts that happened, bonds that we create, but we are able to change that, to, I would say, kind of undo what we accepted before. Does it make sense so far? Is it clear? Okay, good. So the next topic that, let me see, I want to ensure I'm covering everything. Okay, so the first thing we want to be aware is how we speak and the things we say in our daily life. That's the most important thing. When we start being aware, when we say, oh, I promise I'm going to be with you, and I was like, do I mean it like for life? Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to see the person like my whole life. I can see it for a moment. And I would say I'm even looking, as I'm doing these circles of expansion, I am looking also at my offerings. Like I say, oh, you will have access to this course for life. And I say, like, can I promise that really? Like, can they have this for life? Am I going to be for my whole life doing this, or is going to change? Is this platform going to be available for me always? So it's kind of, I'm kind of reassessing the same thing, if it makes sense or doesn't make sense, or it's just, to our brains, it reassures us. It makes us, oh, I have this access for life, this is great. But maybe it doesn't make, like, if we start thinking through it, it doesn't make sense. It's something maybe I cannot ensure. At some point, maybe there is not going to be anything left. I don't know, maybe in 10 years, how things are going to change. So, yeah. So I feel like it's not accurate. It's too much to promise something for life. So talking about this topic really is making me also be more aware about things, and assessing those things. Also, I start assessing many other things, what it entails for me to have something stored for so long, and maybe it's not used, maybe it's already obsolete and needs to be like put down, and everything that entails. Because, and I'm going to give this example because the same happened to us. If something is not used, it is there. What is happening? I am not aware, but to the ecology is impacting it. For instance, to the ecology, if I have something stored, it means it is somewhere, and that computer or that storage needs to be fed by electricity. That means that in a certain way, I'm contaminated. It's the same as all the emails that I have. If I don't delete them, it needs to be stored somewhere in the cloud, and then that needs to be fed by electricity, and then we are contaminating in certain ways. So I'm also not helping to the ecology. So energy, like, there is a way that we don't realize, but there is energy that is being wasted, right? There are resources that are being wasted. So if we see this thing like in the whole perspective, and maybe I'm losing many other perspectives because that's one side. The same is happening to us. Like, we have a pack is there, and it's being fed by an energy, and it's impacting many other things, and we are not aware of those ones. So there is not much difference of our 3D reality versus what is going on when we have a pact or a vow. That there are people sometimes, like, I have a lot of clients that has came lately, and they are not able to enter relationship. They are not able, like, it's been 10 years, it's been 15 years, and they keep thinking or falling into a toxic relationship to someone that really, the relationship is not prospering. It's a relationship, an old relationship, but there is still some energy that is being drained from the people, or the woman or the man, but there is always the energy keeps there. What I realized through the Akashic readings, it's been that it is related to a pact done in a past life. So it's been a pact where they kind of sign a contract. They sign a contract, and it could be in a very long time. It existed in history. How can I say? Priestess, I could say priestess that, or women that they were just providing sex to the pharaoh, providing sex to a specific person in charge. And they can be like in love because they grew up for a specific role to be fulfilled. So they can believe, and they fall totally into that role. And they keep, and of course, those roles, those characters that were in the past life, maybe in this life, they are not a couple, but they kind of were for a short time a couple, and now they are still tied into that contract that they acquired a long time ago, and they are not able to separate themselves and cut ties, and they feel still like there is desire and everything, when it is really a toxic relationship, because it was never heart from heart. It was from a beauty. It's kind of a service. It's kind of to being a servant to somebody else. So when there is this type of contract that is not from heart to heart, but it's kind of there is a codependency, or I am your servant pretty much, then it could impact your real life. The same could happen also with people that have life in the slavery, when they were slaves. And sometimes they just meet somebody that they were the perpetrator, or the ones that they used to be owned by in a past life. And I found that the relationship or that that person that say, oh, I cannot leave this relationship at all, I cannot move, I want, but it's kind of my feet is not moving. And it's because there is this type of contract that is still impacting this current life. So sometimes the conscious or the subconscious, it was an impact what happened in that past life, and they are still recreating. The energy is still there and it's resonating, because we are talking about the same soul. They are meeting the same soul in the past life, and they feel like they are in the same contract. So in certain cases, if you dare, right, you need to have a lot of authority and inner authority to be able to take the best step or the best action for yourself. And with that, you can cut the contract. If you take a different path, different from what you took before, then with that, you break the contract. You don't need to do much. You break the contract and you move on. But sometimes there is not that inner authority that built. More than built is kind of, it haven't emerged. You haven't had the space for that authority to merge within ourselves. So we need help to be able kind of to release that energy. Maybe we've been so long in that energy that it's very difficult for us to do it by ourselves, because we are still kind of getting to remember who we are. And we are not, maybe we are not empowered enough. At least we don't feel we are empowered enough to do that. So those things also happen, that you have those type of contracts and it's impacting your current life. So what the intention of today is that first we can totally break those contracts, that anything is done forever. There could be some things that could be stronger, but not as stronger as our inner authority, not as stronger as our source, that can help us to break the contracts. Or if we need help, it will put the person that will help us to go through that process. But we are able to do it. As I mentioned, just with making a different decision, just making a different choice and choosing us always. And this is related a lot with our self-love. It has to be a lot with the self-love, because if we choose ourselves, if everything we choose is from our heart, and we decide to choose whatever is the best for us, for our highest good, and that is aligned with love, then with that action, we are just breaking the contract. Like, there is no power. We are totally, because when we do that, what we are doing is we are taking totally over our own authority. We are walking into source, like we are source doing the things. So as you can maybe start listening, it is so related with our mindset. It is super related with being connected with source, with our spirit, with God, whatever you want to call it. And when we act from that space, there is nothing that could be more powerful than this. But the level of certainty and the authority and grace, I would say, because with grace we can cut everything. It will just undo. It will just undo the other energies. So I think we are in the process of remembering. We are in the process of first believing, because it's more than believing, it's allowing it to emerge, because it's within us, that authority. But for our brain, it's kind of, the brain needs to believe. And when it believes, it starts kind of embodying it. And it passed from the believing to knowing, and to have that certainty that source lives and is within us, and we are able kind of to break those things that are not aligned with ourselves, because those energies are in a dense vibration, is lower vibration. And as soon as we shift, as soon as we start acting from love, then everything else start also shifting. Does it make sense, Diana?
Hmm?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So because we are going to see and we are going to listen a lot if we read about this topic, and yes, we can do it, we can break it. And I do the practices when I feel we should do it, we do it. But also, I think like all this process is about awareness. It's about us remembering our inner authority, us totally stepping into our inner being, our I am presence, our divine presence. And from there, we start shifting things. Like I'm still learning, but what I realize is every time I'm able to tap into this energy, because I am not into that source energy 100% of the time. Not at all. And I would say it's there are times that I am, and there are other times that I'm totally out of that energy. But what I can say is now I am more aware, and also I can feel when I am totally into that love energy. I can sense it into my body, how it shifts. And when we are into that, I can see the things very different as when I am not in that energy. So, okay, so the invitation is always like to tap into your inner source, okay? That's always invitation, and remembering that you have the full power. And that doesn't mean that sometimes we don't look for some help. I still do that. But also I know that this is kind of, this is the process of the learning of this life, or my life. And this is going to be kind of a step I'm going to, or a process, I would say. It's going to take me, I don't know how long I'm going to live in this earth, but it's going to take me a while. So with that, also for breaking the contracts, and that's what we want to get, is we can work with our higher self, okay? We can work with our higher self, and in the PDF, we are going to have a statement. I'm going to write this statement for you in Spanish here. We'll have it in English and Spanish. Let's see. And this is what we can use to break the contracts. Where I put it this here. Okay. So I'm going to put this on the chat and here. Perfect. Okay. So we have this statement, and also like we can, there is a practice that is very useful to do, and we can, like, besides the awareness of what we are talking, we can start just thinking about all those contracts. We can just ask our higher self, our high self, to start breaking all those contracts that are not aligned with ourselves, that are not in our highest good and our greatest good. And we can start asking it to start breaking all the pacts, agreements, vows that we have done in this reality, in other reality, in other dimensions, in parallel universe, that are impacting our current reality. So we can just ask. And whenever we do this ask, and whenever we request this to our high self or source, we connect with our heart. Like, we ensure we are totally in a center. We are centered, and we are aligned with ourselves, and we are aligned with our heart. And from that space, we ask. to our high self to start breaking all those contracts. If whenever you realize, oh, see, I did something here, I said something here, you can just with that intention ask your higher self, please help me break this contract with this person that you acquire. Maybe you promised something, or you can talk to the person and say, oh, sorry, you know, I promised this, but I'm not going to be able to comply on this promise that I did to you. So you can talk to the person and just very direct and say, hey, I'm not going to comply this. Or if the person is not there, if the person is not available, then you can just ask your higher self to please break out any contracts that are not aligned, that are remaining there in your environment. So yes, I think that's what you can apply. You can start practicing with your higher self, and you can request this, like you can feel it. You can request it for maybe 3 days, for 1 day. Maybe you feel, okay, I feel like liberated, because it's kind of the energy is released, and you can locate where the contract energy is in your body. For instance, we are going to do this exercise, very quick exercise, where we are putting and we are asking for the intention to break any contracts that are not aligned with our greatest and highest good, and that we are ready to let it go, and we are ready to release, and everything always in divine order. Everything we do is always in divine order. And so we are going to ask to break any contracts that we have done in this life, in a previous life, in another reality, in another dimension, with any kind of being. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask you to start scanning your body. And we are using the body as the antenna. And just observe, free of judgment, anywhere in your body that you feel that there is a block for attention, and just keep going and finish the scanning from your crown through your toes. Okay. And you might feel like a part of your body that maybe it has like more energy, it's more dense than the other parts, which is good as well, it's okay. Perfect. And from there, when you finish doing the scanning, you are going to ask your high self to break and delete this contract, agreement, or pact, or vow that you've done in this lifetime, in another reality, in another dimension, in another life. And also you are going to ask your high self to delete any effects. And when I say delete, we are also forgiving, and we are forgiving ourselves, we are forgiving this other energy, we are also liberating. Everything of that is embedded into this delete word. Okay, we are deleting, we have to delete any effect that this contract, vow, agreement, or pact has brought to your life, impacting your physical body, your emotional, mental, or spiritual body. So we are asking to delete everything. And we are asking our higher self to delete all those effects that are not aligned with our highest good, and bring all those energies to zero minus infinite, all defects. Perfect. And then you're going to bring yourself up to strengthening yourself up to 100 multiplied by infinite. You are just strengthening yourself in front of these other beings. So you feel like you are in full authority, in your full power. You are totally strengthened. Good. Just breathe in and breathe out. Sometimes you can feel a little dizzy, as if you release a lot. You can exhale through your mouth. And you can ask like any remainder of energy also can be deleted. And if there was an impact from another parallel universe, parallel reality, we are asking that all the programs that has been, if there were any programs that has been downloaded to your system that is not aligned with you, also to be deleted. And we are clearing also any bleed over and sealing this other dimension or universe or parallel universe. Now, what you are going to do is you're just going to fill yourself with love and grace and forgiveness and gratitude. All those energies start filling you out. And then you will start just doing this scanning again from your crown through your toes. That's good. Good, good, good. That's really good. Okay, and you can come back to this place, to this space. How do you feel? How is the tension and the block gone?
I don't know. It's seems that I still need to work on had this feeling like in the body when you mentioned that check if you have any tension. I mean, I do have tension, but are not because I'm tired or because I was training or because it's the night and need to go to sleep, but not really because of, or at least I think so that it's
Okay.
because of a contract that I have done also. I didn't feel anything special that I was feeling differently from before. No.
Okay, so you did notice some tensions, and you mentioned that those tensions were from the day because you were tired and those things.
I have a all pain in the back, so then that's come from before. So then it's quite long. I have that. So of course I will notice this tension directly because I have it for long. So then it's totally difficult to know specifically if it's this tension is due to the position you're having now. Are you sitting correctly? You are sitting for that position so long, or it's sometimes difficult.
Yes.
It's easy when you're lying down because then your body is relaxed on the floor. So then
it's easier.
And you always mention it's something that you need to practice and checking, scanning your body.
Yes. Yes, the scan, because sometimes, and that's a way, it's not that we need to do it, but that's a way also that we can see where is it stored. And the body kind of give us some information. And when we put this intention, we just see, okay, if there is something, maybe that's, I would recommend that you can try it out maybe in an earlier time when you feel like more relaxed. And I know that at this time you're almost ready to go to bed, so it's different, but you can also try it out earlier, like in the mornings, and do it at a time that you have the time to do it. And just maybe you can just listen this part and just feel if there is something that you perceive within your body that is being released. And just
and
go through it.
I think it's complex, this topic, because sometimes you're not aware that you do this promise, but also they can come from past life.
Yes.
And definitely you won't remember in this life what you have done.
Yes.
Just by following
Yes.
your behavior. Or
yes, but sometimes you can also realize in the current events, in the repeated events, if there is a repeated event that is happening, it could be, the thing is, it is not just one cause, correct? It's like, oh, because this happened, is this going to be, this could be one of the things, right? The agreements could be one of the things that something is being repeated, or with a specific person, because usually the agreements are done with a specific person. Also, sometimes if, for instance, and this is a lot for the healers, the coaches, sometimes they have, because they were persecuted, they were pursued, they were chased, they were killed in very awful ways. They have promised, they were like so emotionally impacted, they have promised to not speak out again, not talk their truth, and many things. So they kind of vow unconsciously with themselves, kind of a promise of protection, because it wasn't safe before. So many times in those cases, we need to undo those contracts. We need to undo that agreement that they did with themselves, and also to forgive the experience, because that's there. So it's the contracts agreements is just one piece, but it's not everything, correct? Because we have the experience and other things. But many times the contract, yes, undoing the contract is kind of, you opened the energy to start flowing again, the energy. But that's when it's related with those past lives. And so that's a way to see also if there is like a boss or someone that is like it's not going well, and it's just sometimes it's like maybe there is a past life that you are meeting this person again just to overcome some behaviors, and that's what we are doing. Like there is something sometimes, or there is a promise, and we are just kind of finishing that, or because our brain thinks that we need to do it, so we are recreating it. But we can also like say, okay, I just want to cut. I don't want to carry on anything from the past life, because we don't need to carry on, right? We were taught that if we have a contract, we need to comply and we need to finish it. But we don't need to finish, because we have this law of forgiveness. We have the law of grace, and it's, in this case, is the law of grace that we can use to just kind of cut all those contracts that are not aligned with ourselves, bring in our awareness, and be more conscious about ourselves. So that's something that we can always do. There could be exceptions. There could be cases that, okay, yes, we cannot do anything. We just need to move on and just do that. It's fine. But many times we can do that. So that's from one side. What we can do in this life, though, is we can start being aware of what we say, how we say it, our promises and our agreements, the promises and our agreements that we give to our children, to our husband, even our co-workers or bosses, is being more assertive. And that's the importance of being assertive. So we can be more assertive and just think, is this something that I can do it or not? What I'm really promising here. So because when we do a promise, it's kind of, we are opening some exchange, we are giving some energy mostly, and there is an exchange that we are doing. So it's kind of, if we don't finish that, it's kind of that tube of energy is still running, even though I forget, I'm start doing other things, but it's kind of is draining the energy. So we just want to clear any, and you can do this also, like I want to clear any unconscious contracts, agreements that I have done, not aligned with my highest good. So I can just do this and just practicing and see what happens in my energy, and I can just release those things. So you can ask to your higher self. As always, you can always be creative. You can always be creative of what you want to ask. Does it make sense, Diana?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it the same? Is include there for when you get baptized when you're small? Is this a kind of contract also?
When you do what in the
when you're small and your parents baptize you because you're born with it.
Yes.
Is that a contract?
If you promise something,
I mean, you're small, you probably not promise anything because you're not conscious of that decision. It's your parents are doing that for you.
Well, yes. I would say, well, there is this belief, and I would say belief, right? Because everything is a belief. There is this belief that if the parents do something, it's 3 or 7. If 3 generations or 7 generations after it's still like running that information. It's still there, that contract, and sometimes the descendants still carry on with those contracts. And we kind of inherit. It's the same as we inherit good things as well. We could inherit something maybe that is not aligned and is not like good for our energy, that it could be draining us. So that's why it's good. It's a good practice to just clear any contracts that we do, because we don't want it to pass it on. So that's something also that can happen. Yes, they always say that it's kind of I don't remember, I believe it's 7, like the generations, 7 generations up and 7 generations down. Like, for instance, I usually say, and I got into the awareness, like, because people was very nice to me. I was like, I'm just enjoying the fruits of my grandma and her kindness with the people that she didn't know well. And she was always bringing them into the house and feeding them or giving them a room to stay. So I felt the energy was coming back to me. Like what she did, I was receiving it. So the same happens like with the contracts. If it's not being totally closed. Mm-hmm. But it is not a must, right? It's not a must that we inherit that. I believe it's like kind of before we came down here, we kind of agree on those things to carry on certain things. Also for us to complete the contract, or for us to be aware that we can cut the contract, we can break the contract. We don't need to carry it anymore. Yeah. What other questions do you have?
Oh, that is really complex. That you decide, it's like you're not free. Never. If you well, decide this kind of thing.
Yes, but remember this. All this is kind of is in our beliefs, right? And sometimes because we are logical, we need to understand how this works. However, when we are able to tap in our source, we are totally free. If we are able to tap into our source, into our inner being, all this that I talk is kind of, all this that I talk is kind of, we are moving away from this already. But that's how we used to do the things. So I would say that it's still valid. We can still use it. And for many people, it is very liberating. But as much as you start getting and tapping, and I would say if you start cultivating more and more and going into that inner authority and remembering that source is within you, and that everything else is kind of just the character that you are playing, it's going to be easier to just undo everything else, because you are free. You are remembering, you are allowing your inner light to be expressed through you. You are allowing your freedom to be expressed through you. Therefore, anything like source, all these things are just kind of, how can I say it? It's kind of based on our consciousness, we can live in a bubble of a dimension. And in this bubble of dimension, we have certain rules or games that we are playing. But when we are able to go outside this bubble, we have a bigger one. And then we are kind of totally like outside the bubble. So we are totally free. And from there, we can just start, it will start just removing those things, because we are not choosing those things. We are choosing whenever we do an act, or we are in a relationship, we are in exchange, we are choosing ourselves. We are choosing self-love. So we are able to act in a different way as well. So you will read these two things potentially, like one, that you can do this and cut the ties and you can do it. And the other one is, okay, I just want to be source. I know that I am free and I cannot be tied with anything when I am vibrating in love, in radiant love. And I will allow radiant love to totally free myself up, because these other contracts are not in the same vibration as love. If they are tied in us, they are not at the same vibration as infinite love or radiant love. And with that is also freedom. So yes, we can make it very complicated. Like when I study all the contracts, when I start looking at the things, when I read the Akashic records, we have all these things. Like I realize many things as I get more people, and there's different kind of experiences. But also on the other side, I get to understand that all these things, if we are able to tap into that energy, all these things can be just boom, disappear in an instant. So yes, so I would say the more we cultivate our inner being, our source that is within us, our I am presence, like we connect with that radiant love, and we allow that radiant love to be expressed through every cell and atom of our body, that will start just kind of removing everything that is not, I would say, yeah, it will start empty us of everything, all those, I don't want to call it garbage, but it's kind of garbage that is kind of not allowing us to see through things. But it's
are these blockages that you have in the different bodies, physical and
yes.
the other one, are contracts, are always contracts?
No. It could be contracts. It could be with a vow or a promise to ourselves. That's also a decision, but not all contracts, but not all decisions are contracts, right? It could, you can say like all decisions could be a contract if you want to believe something that is kind of, you are agreeing with that energy to believe in something. But I would say contracts when we do it with somebody else, right? We are doing with another energy, that's a contract. There is somebody else. Then we have the vows that is we do with ourselves. We vow on something, but also we have decisions. There are different things. Not everything is kind of a contract, but it's more when you do a promise to someone, when you say you are agreeing with someone. I would say it's more when you agree with someone to do something for the other person, and there is this type of exchange of energy specifically, and you sign a contract, like a specific contract, or you just do like a oral contract for something. What other questions do you have?
No, no. Okay, that's a last one. Just okay, you know, when you are small and you love so much your parents, and sometimes you can say things like, when I grow up, I will do this and this. When I grow up, but I mean, you mean it, but then so many things happen in this since the time you said it until the time you're supposed to do this what you promised, because it's many years and maybe your parents has not been the ones you had ever expected, or maybe you realize that.
Yes.
And then I don't know if this kind of thing also can tie you unconsciously.
Yes.
And then realizing what I feel, what do I feel like this tie, or what I have to do. And then it can come to this that you sometimes when you're small can do this kind of promise. So
yes, and you feel like yes. So that can impact, and that's a good question, because what you can do in those cases, and you realize, oh, I did this when I was a child, and I just did it. Sometimes we do those things just to please our parents, because we want them to see us smiling. It could be one of the reasons. It's not always that. Or we are looking for approval from them, and sometimes we meant those things. So what you can do is just go into that moment and say, and talk to your parents. You can go into that moment and you can just tell them, like, kind of imagine them in front of you and just tell them, oh, I promised you this, but in fact that does not make me happy, and I don't want to do this anymore. So I am releasing this contract. I'm releasing myself from this contract, because at the end we do it by ourselves, right? We thought that that's what they were expecting, and sometimes we just do it. So it's kind of you are releasing that energy, and you're releasing yourself from that promise. So you will feel like, okay, things are going to start coming to your energy, because it's going to free yourself in certain way, and start maybe enjoying more what you are doing, and without feeling like, okay, I should be doing something else. So yes, you can do it whenever you feel like there is something. You can say, oh, this is something here, I just want to release this energy. So you can do it by yourself and put that energy. But it's not that you need to do it always, right? Because as I mentioned, as whenever you choose, because also the other option is at that moment you choose to say, I choose what I'm doing. I understand this and I release this, and I'm just choosing what I'm doing because it's what I enjoy. I'm choosing always myself. I'm choosing always joy within yourself. So yes, you can use whatever is easier and whatever works for you. Go into that and just talk and just release the contract or your promise. So you release yourself, or you can just say something different. Yes, yes, you can write your own words and create your own. Like, this is an example. What I wrote here in the chat is an example. You can write something different that is with your own words and start using that, which is maybe you're going to understand it better because it's going to be with your own words as well. Yeah. Makes sense?
Yes, yes.
Super, super, super. I know it's kind of it's easier in a certain way because it's a contract. Like, we know and we are totally familiar with contracts. And the practice, I think, or the takeaways, it's going to be to start being aware of more what we are talking through, what we are saying in our words when we talk with other people. It's kind of that awareness. I think that's important. And if you want to break something, you can just do this prayer. It's kind of a prayer that you do it, centering yourself and bringing this prayer, and yes, with your full heart. Well, yes, you don't need to be aware of the contracts. You just kind of request. And I would say, if you want to do this, you can do it for 21 days, kind of do this request every day and just put it out there. Whatever is required to be already break to happen, and you do it like every day. That will be helpful if you do it for 21 days. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Diana. That's what we have today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Have a good sleep today.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.